Welcome back, everybody. Today we're discussing Shogun Episode 9. This episode was one last dagger in the back before Toranaga swoops in and saves the day, and I certainly cannot wait for that. These last 3 episodes have been all about showing us a certain narrative to convince us and his opposition that he does not stand a chance, and they have certainly done a good job. This penultimate episode does a great job of showing that Toranaga may have a plan, and the cost may be a little bit more than we can bear. The episode begins with Mariko, 14 years ago, running away from her home for the 3rd time. She is pregnant with Buntaro's child, and it feels like she does not want this child alongside the life that she has been forced to live with Buntaro. Her being pregnant probably made her much more aware how little she cared to remain in this world, and her running into this blizzard was probably hoping to die. We're reminded of her father and the mercy that Buntaro had by sparing her life. Her attempts are painted as ungrateful, and nobody is actually listening to the soul that wants to die until Father Martin comes in. I was quite happy with how they painted their relationship this episode. Previously, we were left to speculate about this after Father Martin was told to put an end to the barbarian, and then he went and told Mariko about how dangerous he was. In that moment, he was truly using his friend, but this episode removes the veil on if they were friends or not. For a few reasons, it seems as though this was the start of a beautiful friendship that helped her survive the years of being married to a man that she hated, and it all started here, with a polite conversation and a reminder that we are all hurt children trying to figure out how not to be sad tomorrow. The conversation ends with a note about God sparing each of them for a purpose, and it holds on this moment as if trying to highlight this is the reason that Catholicism grabs her. She was comforted by knowing her purpose exists, even if it may not be known to her right now. He doesn't push for her to engage, to say anything to a stranger, but gives her prayer beads that she keeps until her final day. We then see Operation Crimson Sky on the title card to remind us of the bloody operation that was said to be canceled. John and Mariko talk about why she is there, and she politely asks that he minds his barbarian business. We then see the black ship, which makes me so excited we may see him in a naval battle against that thing, or taking over the black ship himself. Perhaps the best way to end with him truly owning his pirate status would be for him to commandeer this larger vessel. I just hope this means that we get a shot of him and Rodriguez fighting side by side, though I don't think we have quite enough time to make that happen. It's possible, but they risk it feeling a little forced with only a single episode left. They did show Rodriguez viewing him in a positive light during the escape from Osaka, while also showing that the captain is a madman worth treasoning because he was willing to crash the ship if it meant disabling a single pilot. It's possible, but it is ultimately just a theory. Yabushige taps him on the shoulder like an old college bud, and John quickly bows. Yabushige tells John that he must remain near while they meet Lord Ishido, and he cannot believe that he was so willing to do that after Mariko translated. Mariko sees through this man right away and knows that he is up to something. John is not safe with Yabushige, but she does not risk adding to the chaos and lets him be ignorant to the danger which he heads for. The scene changes after a note from Yabushige about his hatred for the city, and then we see the protocol for access. Beyond many men and many gates sits Lord Ishido. It's meant to give light to how hard this place would be to siege, just as the scene later highlights how hard this place would be to leave. The archers on the walls hint at what's to come, and then we hear very directly that Lord Ono's family is not allowed to leave, meaning that nobody is allowed to leave. Her purpose in this moment was crystal clear to me. She came to be the person calling a spade a spade. This was magical because it goes back to the first episode where this man lost his life because he insinuated the council was at odds with each other. She intends to call it like it is in a culture that very much resists that, and it starts here when she tells John that a member of every royal family is trapped here so that nobody can oppose him. Yabushige tells John that they will meet Lord Ishido tomorrow and denies Mariko translating. I really liked this moment. The actor playing Yabushige carried this episode, and I would love to see him in anything that he's in, truly. This is just, he has such a brilliant animated and every scene I just see a snake instead of the person acting like this. It's so brilliant. I love him. I'm enthralled whenever this man speaks, and it's curious that he does not allow Mariko to translate. It feels like he just wants to see how well he can communicate with John without her, and it's not so great, but it does work. John then forgets that Yabushige does not speak English in the same way that John speaks Japanese, and says that after all of this, he will be a rich man. Yabushige replies with an uncertain certainly, and we know right away that this man does not care for what John has to say as long as he follows and does what he's told. John then tries to rizz up the Lady of Ice and goes to sleep with blue balls yet again. Mariko then talks to Lady Kiri and Shizu about the conditions they have been living in as hostages, giving up their luxury suite to a lesser luxury suite to just, highlight how hard it is to have a baby here while there's people living outside of the palace. The overall point here, though, is to highlight they are certainly not free to leave, which happens a few times throughout this episode until it's clear to everybody. Mariko gives Lady Kiri a note from Toranaga, and she quickly reads it and puts it away, agreeing without question. I'm sure that it says to go along with Mariko, or probably the name of a game plan like Crimson Sky that was probably detailed a long time before this, assuming other plans were created, though, it probably just says, hey, do what Mariko says, right? This brings us to the Portuguese discussing John and Mariko being back in the city, likely sent from Toranaga. Father Martin does what Toranaga primed him to do, and that is to argue that these actions are not some master plan. Toranaga, to him, is defeated, his men killing themselves, and now this pilot that he once protected is running away with Yabushige. He is trying to argue a narrative that Toranaga created, and it's pretty up in the air if this works. They call Mariko his girlfriend, poking fun mainly, but then the other father says that he may be blind to their trickery. This is painting Father Martin in a pretty great light comparatively, as he is really not the one being low-key racist and seems to care more than just for the profit that is being generated. The scene still ends on a note about war coming, and then the man who works on behalf of the crown standing just a little bit further away from the men who work on behalf of the faith. I really wish the scene would have shown Father Martin standing away from the other two to highlight the divide between them, because I feel like that would be a little bit more impactful, but still cool. This brings us to John and Yabushige talking about the events to come and helping John with his bow. I really wish they would have just kissed already, but it's whatever. I really liked how we were seeing Yabushige in these scenes. The way he talks and moves around, it's like he's free of the burden of pretending to be something that he wasn't and can say what he wants. It is kind of gorgeous, and it seems like he views John as this big old dummy that is just going along with whatever he says, but he smiles and pats him on the back. It's just, I love this. I may be just attracted to this man. I don't know what's happening. This brings us to Lord Kiyama seeing John and thanking Yabushige for returning his prisoner. These two have a little back and forth before Yabushige tells him to carry on with his boring Christian squabbles, and he walks on before Kiyama stops John. He's speaking to him in plain, pretty good English, and it is just, that reveal right there, so good. This was so powerful, and then John immediately humbles him, asking if his loyalty is to his lord or his pocket. Kiyama tells him that he is a student of trade more than faith and says that his kind arrived a little too late. This pretty direct exchange with a member of the ruling party was quite risky, but it is truly only the beginning of this happening throughout the episode. We then see these two sitting before Lord Ishido and Lady Ochiba, Yachio pointing out the barbarian to his mother before taking his seat at the very top. Right now, Yabushige is in trouble here. They believe that he is a traitor and no amount of explaining would get him out of that. At least not in this open court. Yabushige offers John as a way to say sorry for his actions, like how they would have appeared, wanting to force John into a service to Lord Ishido as a way to make things right. I don't think John really realized what happened there, but they are dismissed to a seat further back and Mariko enters to take center stage. She is powerful, dressed in her Sunday best with looks to kill. She congratulates Lord Ishido and Lady Oshiba on their engagement, and she looks away like, damn sis, could you not bring that up in front of everybody? Lord Ishido then insults her for joining Toranaga, and she smiles and waits for her time. This entire sequence was a powerhouse. The writing was spotless, the exchange was tense, and the moments where you thought that it couldn't get better do. Ochiba says how nice it is to see her again, meeting after all this time since they were children growing up together and learning what it meant to be women in this culture. It felt like both of them had pretty mixed emotions about how they were meeting, but I think more happy than anything else to see each other. Naturally, she challenges her to a rap battle, and Mariko drops the coldest bars in all of the Japans. These poetry slams were actually a real thing that happened in this culture, and I enjoy that fact so very much. They say that they will be having a poetry competition later, and after Mariko writes the coldest bar of all time, she says that she won't be joining them. But before we get too far, let's go over the haiku first. While the snow remains, veiled in the haze of cold evening, a leafless branch. Right away, the feeling is misery. Cold, snow, leafless branches. It is a haunted poem that was delivered with such polite smiles and happy tone of voice that it makes you question if the creator knew what she was saying at all. And of course, she does. This poem is for everybody in the room. She is saying that the snow continues to fall, but they are being told that it is just a cold evening and not a storm that creates leafless branches. It's saying that this place is veiled, and while it may seem like a chilly afternoon, the snow piles up thicker and thicker, creating an impassable world, killing the only life that grows here. Ochiba's wide eyes show that she's reading in between the lines, and Mariko is here to cause trouble. Starting the poetry competition on such a harsh note is also such a powerful move. It sets the tone for the entire thing, and someone will either have to be positive following that up and continue to play into the delusion that they aren't being snowed in, or continue the joyless story that paints the world as it actually is. It is brilliant, and it edges us closer to the oppositional movement that changes the entire tone of the series. She says that she will be leaving, as her loyalty is to her lord, and she has been given an order. She will be escorting Lady Shizu and Kiri to Edo, and will return with Toranaga in a few weeks for their hearing. Ochiba tries to push this to a private meeting, but she intends to be heard by everybody listening. She is reminded of her manners, and I really thought this was going to be like just a polite nod and then acceptance, but she does that and so much more. She insists that she will be leaving tomorrow unless they are confined there. Ochiba, the true puppet master here, turns again, realizing the game that Mariko plays. Lord Ishido affirms that nobody is a hostage, but they must review her outburst. It is a way to confine her with a veiled proper cause, and Kiyama is asked to agree. Before saying yes, he looks to Ochiba as if looking for some kind of affirmation that he should, further highlighting the control that she has here. Lord Ishido says that she will remain here, and Mariko politely bows again, saying she would be honored if she wasn't a ride or die for her lord. He tries to close this matter, denying her request in front of everybody, and she closes the matter, saying that she will be leaving in front of the entire court, in front of God, the leader of this country, and the former friend. It is brilliant, and it got me out of my seat. Again, she looked so powerful here. It was breathtaking. She owned this room in this moment like a dead woman that knew her time was near and could speak without the pointless protocol that pretends to have purpose. She was speaking her truth and letting the rest of the court know that she had power to leave, and so do they. She then reminds them that she is no peasant, but a descendant of an ancient bloodline that should be revered. She calls her disgraced father's name out directly, which to almost all in this land has been told and conditioned to believe that he was a traitor. She calls him a great lord, which itself is probably dangerous. She says that she will never be captive or hostage or confined, removing the cold veil of a blizzard that keeps them there. He must agree to let her leave, or admit that she is all of those things. Yabushige is furious and says that surely all of this must be part of Toranaga's plan. He begs for more information about it, but she refuses, politely saying that she doesn't know what came over her and remaining still while he paces around looking for clues. John steps in after he starts yelling at her, and then Mariko speaks up for herself. She dismisses him, and Yabushige leaves after believing that John was somehow part of Toranaga's plan as well. Little does he know, Yabushige coming here and doing all that he has done was actually his plan. He then calls his Kosho here an idiot, and they leave. He is a background character through and through, but he has been here since the start, and honestly, if it is actually him feeding Toranaga information, that would be such a great reveal. Otherwise, his character doesn't have too much depth, maybe other than to show, what it is to be a punching bag for a terrible lord, fated to die a terrible death alongside a man just because that's fate. Though I do really hope for his sake that that's not the case. But hey, I think that we should ultimately just be prepared for more death before this is over. John and Mariko talk about her trying to leave against Lord Ishido's will and how she must stab herself to reveal that the blade is sharp. It is beautiful wordplay and exactly what she was sent here to do. The other families must see this for what it is, and she intends to die to prove it. John still has a hard time understanding this, but quietly agrees to not stop her. We then see Mariko talking with her son about her leaving and the duty that she still serves to a family that the world sees as dishonored. She begs him to remember that he serves Toranaga and not Kiyama, and he says that if she disgraces herself, he will disown her. It is harsh and absolutely influenced by the lords that were able to consult him without his family or lord present. This, of course, brings us to the moment. The ladies get in formation with loyal soldiers accompanying them. The gates open and the entire palace watches from the high walls, looking down at her alongside the archers that assure that this fight will not be close. These men willingly march to their death and get stopped by the guards asking if they had papers to leave. Of course they don't, and this man then tries to make it clear they are leaving. The rest of the troop marches forward, Mariko in the middle like a flower, untouched by the harsh blizzard raging around her. This battle sequence was wonderful, and it ends in a resounding defeat. Their men fought to the best of their ability, but it was an impossible bout. More of Lord Ishido's men rush in, and she addresses the other regents directly, asking that these men be moved, but they are powerless as Lord Ishido ordered these men and is too cowardly to attend. She announces loud and proud that this treatment is proof that they are all captives to a single lord. Lord Kiyama announces that he will call for a meeting, but Mariko insists on her orders and steps forward. I really thought she was dead here, and the arrow at her feet was like a harsh warning about what we were about to see. She calls for her Naginata, and despite Lord Kiyama telling them that she must not be harmed, we know that these men do not answer to him. She was then slowly humiliated and painfully made aware of her spot in this battle. She wails, trying to break free from their countering and wanting to do damage or be killed, but realizing that neither was going to happen. They hold her weapon down, stay on the defensive, and ultimately make her feel like a child wearing herself out after a tantrum. It is a terrible outcome for the person who wanted to die in this moment to highlight just how severely they were trapped. She says that she will take her life for not finishing her duty to Toranaga, and then asks Kiyama, as a fellow Christian, to take her life. Sunset comes with her death, and we come to the Council of Regents discussing what just happened. Kiyama wants to do this for her, saying it is literally an obligation as a fellow Christian. They believe that she is bluffing, but Ochiba says otherwise. She knows this is her plan, her vengeance, payback for all of her family dying after her father killed Ochiba's father. She's aiding this council to self-destruct after a lifetime of being disgraced by her father's actions. Saiki is briefly part of the scene before being shut down with a look. It really does seem like he's not part of Toranaga's plan after all. He truly could not say no to the Council of Regents' offer and what it would ultimately mean for him and his family. Lord Ishido asks directly for Ochiba's counsel, and she has nothing to offer. She then says if Mariko is allowed to leave, the hostages will demand to leave as well. It is wild. This is a first, and she says this in front of everybody, including the hostages, saying that they are hostages. He looks at her like, I cannot believe you just said that, and truly I agree. She had him create this entire circumstance, and now that it's coming to light, she sits back and calls them hostages, almost like she is distancing herself from what has happened. We've talked about this a few times before, but it feels like she's setting up Lord Ishido to fail here. In a major way, she has formed the narrative that the world is now experiencing through Lord Ishido, and dear God, I hope that relates to a big twist in the end, because by the end of this episode, Lord Ishido is the one in the hot seat that all of the families are looking at as an issue, and Toranaga is far from this issue. Mariko is making everything happen, but Lady Ochiba created the conditions. If she really isn't part of some master lifelong scheme in motion, I would be shocked. This look from Lord Ishido really feels so offended, and it is. Both of them know you can't call them hostages, and that's the entire game of this polite society. So why does she do it so openly when it seems like the tower could come crumbling down? Some members of the other families come to support Mariko in her final hour, and we see John meeting with the heir and Ochiba as well. It is a ruse so that Mariko and Ochiba can talk directly, and John really just stands there. They talk about their childhood together, a beautiful friendship that they once had, and Ochiba even telling Mariko that she was her happiness. She carries a little bit of envy in these words, and after Mariko was sent away, she could not believe the stories that she was hearing about her wanting to end her life in the name of her father. Ochiba and Mariko mirror each other in these shots, standing back to back and framed like each of them is talking to a different version of the same person. How similar they are and how, depending on the circumstances, they could be playing the other's role. Mariko asks Ochiba to stop playing these games, to put an end to the thing that she has created, but she insists that she is just a protector of her son, able to do no such thing, which of course is a lie that Mariko sees right through. The scene ends after Ochiba asks how killing herself will protect her child, and Mariko tells her that flowers are only flowers because they fall. This emotional moment it did it for me. This made it real. Mariko was truly about to die, and John was about to watch it. He says that Toranaga takes advantage of her loyalty, that there must be another way than for her to die for someone else's cause. She says that dying here to prove Lord Ishido's true nature is the sole purpose of why her father kept her alive. Much like Father Martin telling her that God has a purpose for her life, this feels like she has finally realized it. She intends to give her life to Toranaga's cause, which I believe started when she was a child. He was either in part responsible for the death of Ochiba's father or fully to blame, and Mariko's father just carried out actions on his behalf. And we still need to see how and why, and that needs to be talked about on screen in front of everybody. But we know that there is a story, years in the making all of this come together. And Mariko's part of that story happens now. John begs for her to value her life, to live for him, if for no other reason at all. And she holds his hand, heartbroken by the man she does truly love, who can just not see why she must give her life today. Yabushige then receives word from his Kosho, saying that Lord Ishido accepts his offer of service instead of death, but must do something for him. He first reaches for a signed letter stating this, but that does not come. This message is delivered by ear and word of mouth. It is a very tiny detail, and this could just be hacks reading into a scene for far more depth than it has. Ooh, but boy, I hope you're ready to plummet into this rabbit hole. Since the beginning, they have had issues with spies telling Toranaga all of Yabushige's doing. It is displayed to be this man, but many times, Toranaga's spies, plural, has been mentioned with us only knowing about a single one. If this man is a spy and is giving Yabushige information on behalf of Toranaga and not Lord Ishido, that would be incredible, damn near insane. It would mean that the attack on them later tonight was not set up by Lord Ishido, which happens right after he spares Mariko's life, but these soldiers were sent in secret by Toranaga. This would mirror the assassination attempt on John from before, when someone from the Society of Amida came into the picture. If you recall, this created the conditions for Toranaga to escape Osaka. Since then, we have known about the Society of Assassins that are willing to dedicate their entire life for a single kill. I have theorized a dozen times about who could be running this, and it's really only leaving us with a few options at this point. Knowing how Toranaga acts and how he wages war and moves the bait around for falcons trying to prey on him, operating in the shadows instead of waging a full frontal war is certainly his MO. It could be another lord. Kiyama was definitely hinted at being the force behind this earlier hit, but fate is a sword, as Lady Jin pointed out, and it's all about wielding it like a sword. And this may be that. Of course, we really don't know, and this is just a theory that started with this man delivering a secret message via mouth instead of letter, which, because of what he was asked to do, makes sense. I'm just personally putting my eggs into the Toranaga being a mastermind basket. As one final note, we saw the disrespect that this man got this episode. He calls him an idiot. If this dude truly is behind much of the spying and things that have fucked over Yabushige throughout this series, this line would be a great way to show just how much he was underestimating his Kosho. Which brings us to John, studying the garden and reflecting on the flow of things before drawing a proverbial and literal line in the sand. I think this represents his inability to get the culture that demands this woman he loves to take her life for a cause that he cannot see the full picture of. He is the antithesis of the natural order that flows around the garden of Japan, and he is trying to figure out if that will ever change. We then see Mariko and Father Martin discussing her wishing to take her own life. She knows that what she is about to do will banish her from heaven, as suicide is a mortal sin. I talked briefly about this earlier, but this scene does just such a great job of showing their relationship. This may be one of the only people that truly knows Mariko, and I'm glad that they got to say farewell like this. Finally, sunset hits and this man goes nuts on the drum here. It is amazing. Finally, it is time though. Mariko enters to see a room of people that admire her, but no Kiyama. She leaves a poem as her final statement and readies herself. After learning Kiyama was not there, she prepares to do this without being seconded, which means that she will die slowly and painfully. Seconding someone is doing them a great service. You are allowing them to do this honorable thing and then quickly dying instead of prolonging it. John steps up in this moment and I fucking sobbed. I cried so hard, man. This boy is about to kill the love of his life for reasons that he does not believe in or even understand, but he does so because he loves her. He will be the one to take her pain away in the very end, and holy fuck, when that hit me, I was a mess. Oh my god. The doors close, the blades are ready, and then in storms Lord Ishido. He grants her request to leave, and then immediately we see the other royal families chime in asking for the same. She did what she needed to do. She not only showed the world that they were trapped, but gave them hope that they too could be freed from their oppressor, Lord Ishido. John then helps Mariko to her feet and they hold hands. It is a moment of such intimacy that leads to John sneaking into her quarters and returning the favor. This, of course, then brings us to the final event. Yabushige kills this man and then another, letting these attackers take part of this castle overnight. This man stares at Yabushige and taps on his right shoulder. This was something that kind of confused me at first and I needed to investigate a little bit more. Apparently this was something that also happened in the books. He was just keeping time with this, and this operation needed to be done in a very particular way instead of just a Zerg rush to kill people. Yabushige sees the slain room and starts pretending. He orders for everybody to be woken up and they run off to make that happen. We see that they're searching for someone, and I think that that person is just Mariko, as she says a little bit later. They find her and John together and immediately start trying to kill John and kidnap Mariko. Now, they take no actions to harm her, just grab her while John is handling the rest. To me, it's even more strange that Lord Ishido would have her kidnapped instead of killed, and I call bullshit at that point. Like, to me, for my theories, for my enjoyment, I'm going to be watching the next episode, waiting for the reveal that Toranaga was responsible for this, and possibly the earlier assassination attempt as well, but who knows? Eventually they group up and guns continue to murk people through walls as they make a run for the dozo, which I believe is just a storage room of some kind, but let me know if that's not true. We get a brief scene of some awesome fighting before they make it inside and realize that they are trapped. We hear them call for the readying of explosives and see one more act of Yabushige being a spineless boy. He refuses to help John brace the door, fearing for his own life more than anything else. Mariko dies, believing that this attack was done by Lord Ishido and affirming as much to everybody else. And the life of everybody else is just up in the air until the season finale. My goodness, I am glad that we get one more moment to theory craft before everything is out of the window. This was such an awesome episode. I really hoped that you liked the episode review. I feel so grateful, honestly, that we just have this amazing series. I have not read the book, but I have only heard amazing things, and I will be reading it before the end of the year. This series has been such a blast, and I look forward to discussing this show with you, all of you, one more time next week. But with that, we come to the end of the episode. A special thank you to everybody that takes their time to be a part of this community, to comment, to like, to share these videos. I wish that I could express my gratitude more, but it does truly mean so much to me. My goal this year is 100,000, and I will not stop grinding until we reach that and build a community unlike any other. Be sure to subscribe for more content, as we will be covering Fallout as well as Severance and many other things. If you have not watched my Season 1 explained video over, probably linked right here, please do that. Check it out. I spent a whole bunch of time editing that one, and I was really proud of that. I hope you enjoy it as well. Much love, everybody, and I cannot wait to talk to you all again soon.